Alright guys, so we're on revision sheet 2. So we're going to do a little bit here on angles and triangles. So question we're going to do here is the one on page 55. It's the bottom here. The logo was designed for a sailing company. It is based on different types of triangles. Reproduce the logo and add a detail of your own, such as a boat name. Okay, so leave that up to yourself. So you can add one detail somewhere in here in the blanks. I'll leave that up to you. Alright. Okay, so I'm going to start by come down a base. So I need to come down enough. So I'll come down 150 just to make sure it fits in. 150. Okay. Alright, so there's a 2H line going across. Lads, 2H lines, remember, anything I draw on pencil, you should only barely be able to see it in your sheet. It should be nowhere near your H lines. Just double check that. Okay, so I come down 150 and I'll come in to start at, if I come in 100, there's nothing else going on the right hand side there, so I'll come in 100. Okay, and then that base, it told me, is 90. So the base 90. So this is one of the questions now, lads, where you cannot, we usually start by drawing a box goes into, and you can't really do it here. So got a base of 90, so I'll draw that in there. And it doesn't tell me how far over these lines go. All it tells me is that the line it goes up to is 30 millimeters above. So this angle here at the side is 45 degrees. So remember, I have to draw a line here. What's the story with the line? A line is the shortest distance from one point to another. I have the start of it. Is there any way I can find the end of it? Well, if I have the height and the angle, then I have the end of it. So I'll just make sure I'm coming up vertical. So I'll use my T-square to do that. And I'll mark off a distance 30 millimeters above that line. I'll just draw a horizontal line across that in 2H that I can hit. And I'll use my 45 degree set square because the line is going up at 45 degrees. Draw that up there like that, and there it is hitting that. The other side is going at, this angle is going up here, it's not at 45, it's at 60. It's at 60 degrees. So I've got my 60 degrees on my set square. Make sure it's going from the point I marked, and there it is going up at 60 degrees. Alright, so now I kind of have the base part of it done. Okay. Right, in at 45 gives me the kind of the line that the mast of the sailboat is on. So in 45, I'll just draw that straight up there at a vertical line straight up there. Tells me that either side of that, 60 and 60, is the base of that big triangle I'm looking for, and I have to go up 10 to start it. So I'm going to go up 10 here. So there's 10. Okay, I'm going to draw a 2H line across there like that. Okay, and I'm going to make sure I mark out 60 out here. And 60 out the other way, which is going to be 120. Right, there we go. Right. Okay. Right, what's the height of it? I don't know is the answer. The height of it is unknown for now. So this is an isosceles triangle. So I've isosceles inside here. It's an isosceles triangle in that the angle this way and the angle this way are the same angle. So that angle here is 55 and 55. So they should meet at the same point up here, right in the middle. And I have the line in the middle anyway, so you have to do one of them. So remember, to measure an angle, you have to have a vertex and an arm. So the vertex where the arm start, where the second arm will start, is right here. So that's where the two angles meet each other. So I'll make sure my crosshairs are on that. And what have we done wrong here? I need to turn around and make sure that my 0 is on one of the arms. Otherwise I'm not measuring an angle. So my 0 is on one of the arms. I need to measure up. Make sure and count them out, because you could end up with 45 instead of 55. So I'm on 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 and 5. So there's my 55 there. So I'm on the right side. And I'll draw that angle up at 55. that. And I know it'll meet come down here because if it's an isosceles triangle, that line, I have the centre of it because that was 1660. So if that line is going up the centre of it, then that's the same as that. It's like a line of symmetry. That distance is the same as that height is the same as that, and it's an isosceles triangle, so I have it all in order. Okay, and then after that, I need to come up a distance of 16. There we go, like that. Here's my distance of 16. I'll draw my line straight up there. 16, okay. And then it tells me that there's a line, and I know it's a line, a symmetrical line, because there's a long line, short line, long line, short line. So that means that it's another isosceles triangle. In other words, this side is the same as the other side. So the same as the other side, and that line is a distance of 8 millimeters in, because that's 16. So it's a distance of 8 millimeters. So 6, 8, there. So there's the line in the middle. That line of symmetry going across there, and it tells me the apex of that kind of triangle on the side is at a distance of 40 millimeters out there. So I'll mark off the 40 on the line of symmetry, or the altitude line on it, and I'll join the apex of the isosceles triangle out there and join it back the other side. And there is my sailboat logo. So you have to add in some sort of detail in there. I'll leave it up to you. They've suggested a boat name. You could do maybe put the code of the boat or whatever on that, or maybe you could do a type of flag. I'll leave it up to yourself. Put a bit of colour in it, please. Okay, so once you've that done, I want you to come up 20 from the base. So I already have it here, up a distance of 20, and draw a line along like that. Up 20. Okay, and along there I want you to come in 40. So come in 40 and then come in 100. And 100. And I want you to draw a square using that 100. I want you to draw a square using that 100. And you can put a H box around that square. Okay, so a square of 100 millimeters. There, leave it there. Okay, so we got a square of 100. Alright, then after that, you're going to, from this bottom corner, so I want you to use the base of the triangle as one of your arms, and the base of the square as the arm, and I want you to use the bottom left corner and the bottom right corner as vertices. So that's going to be a vertex for one of the angles, and that's going to be a vertex for another set of angles. Okay, so I'm going to start out here. And the angles I want you to put in, you can listen to me here now. The angles I want you to put in is 10, 30, 43, 62, and that will do you. So 10, 30, 43, 62. And I want you to draw H lines using them. Till they hit the other side of it. Now make sure it's not, when I say 43 and 62, I don't mean 37 and 58. So make sure you're measuring correctly, guys. No. like that. So there's the angles, and I want you to do the same from the other side. So this time we're using this as a vertex, and the base is still one of the arms. So I'm going to put that down there, and I'm going to measure the same again. Make sure that my 0 lines up. I'm measuring 10, 30, 43, 62. Okay, and I'm going to measure them across the door. Okay, so you should end up with that. Alright, and just to finish off the year, because I've seen it in a good few of the sketches, I want you to put a bit of colour in this, guys. Okay, now I want you to concentrate the colour, that if you're putting colour on a drawing, you're not leaning on the pencil. I don't want to be able to see, like, if I do it in waste piece here, like I shouldn't be able to see if I was colouring in this, look here, if I was colouring that, you shouldn't be able to see these sort of lines here. That's something you do in primary school. If you're not colouring anymore, you're rendering. Alright, put in here, so you're rendering, and rendering is what we do in secondary school. Colouring in is something you do in primary school. So you're trying to represent the colour in it. You're not doing this. What you're doing is you're applying the same amount of colour. So I'm going to put a blue in here. You're applying the same amount of colour to everything inside there. So that means you're going to have to add, you're not leaning on your pencil, you're putting in the colour, and if the colour isn't enough or there's gaps, you're putting another layer on top of it, another light layer on top of it. So you're trying to get the same amount of colour in all the areas that you're colouring in. So it takes a bit of time. So I'm adding a layer on top of that. And they're all staying the same. And remember, in technical drawing you've got construction lines. In this particular question you don't, but when you're adding in colour into something, you don't want to cover over the construction lines. So I want the colour represented. So I want a nice even layer of colour in there when you're rendering it. So like that, almost if it's printed. Right, so and if you're not happy with it, you go over again to the bits, you go over it again lightly with a pencil. I don't want to go into next year, lads, with this sort of colouring. That is gone, that's over. Alright, we can't go through that. So forget this leaning on it and thinking that that's colouring something in. It isn't. Alright, going outside the lines is a non-event. What you're trying to do is you're trying to get a nice even layer of colour on top of it. If you're not happy with the amount of colour, put another layer on top and make sure colouring all them sections there, whatever you think is appropriate, and I want it rendered properly, guys. Okay? And one last thing I want you to do, over on this side of it, I want you to draw me a triangle. Okay? And I'm going to show you here. So we've got a square of 100 over on this side. Sorry, I want you to come over another, come 50 away from that. Actually 60 away from that. Come 60 away from that. And I want you to draw a base of a triangle that is 85 millimeters long. So that's 85 millimeters long. And from that base of the triangle, I want you to draw me another triangle. I'll write it in here. You don't have to write it in. I'll write it in. So your base is 85. I wanted an altitude of 75, and I want one of the sides to be 80. Okay, so you have your base of 85. I want a triangle in there with an altitude of 75 and one of the sides is 80. Whatever the other one is, it is, but I need that triangle drawn in here. Okay, so you've a bit of work to do around here, guys. Get in your keywords, make sure everything's neat on the page, and try and get all 50